So, welcome on board today. My name is Temitope Olodo. I'm a preventive terrorism consultant, author, and president of African Security Forum. And if you're watching me right now, I want you to like this page. I want you to share this page. I want you to tell your friends that I'm live. And today we're going to be having a quite interesting conversation because I'll be speaking about 10 strategic ways to eradicate banditry and kidnapping in Nigeria. That's the discussion today, and I'm hopeful that we'll learn one or two things that would be relevant, in the course of our discussion today, because we are talking about something that is quite interesting, very, very important, and that is, the reason why, we need to talk about it because we've had spectacular, kidnapping, adoption, and banditry atrocity in Nigeria that have really, really, really upset the nation and upset a lot of people, especially people like myself that work within the security space. We've been quite annoyed by the slow approach that be adopted in dealing with this. So if you're watching me right now, you can like this page, you can share this page, and thank you, Mikey, for joining us. You are blessed. Also, thank you so much. If you're watching us, you can watch us live now on LinkedIn, live on YouTube, live on Twitter. And let me try and share a video with you because I believe this video will more or less give us a snip into the kind of challenges that we're going through in Nigeria. So watch this video.
sammu fakar musosu mugumu da wuta a kansu shirya muje ga kansu domin mu girgiza su sammu fakar musosu
Allahu Akbar Allahu ala wa
sammu fakar musosu mugumu da wuta a kansu سنبقى رغم كيد الظالمين إلى يوم القيامة ظاهرين ونقسم بالذي برأ البرايا سيندم من أعان الكافرين سنبقى رغم كيد الظالمين إلى يوم القيامة ظاهرين ونقسم بالذي برأ البرايا سيندم من أعان الكافرين سنقتل كل من نالت يداه من الإسلام دين المسلمين ونضرب بالسيوف رقاب قوم طغوا وبغوا علينا ما نسينا سنقتل كل من نالت يداه من الإسلام دين المسلمين ونضرب بالسيوف رقاب قوم طغوا وبغوا علينا ما نسينا طغوا وبغوا علينا ما نسينا سنبقى رغم كيد الظالمين إلى يوم القيامة ظاهرين ونقسم بالذي برأ البرايا سيندم من أعان الكافرين سنبقى رغم كيد الظالمين
Jet fighters, plate number 475 was sent to Sambisa to fight the Mujahideen. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it clear that no one can fight with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this is the evidence of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done today. Jet fighter of the Nigeria Air Force 475. Now our message to you, Kufar. There's no how you fight the people of Allah. Now we are calling you to repent. The only way for you now is to repent and come and worship Allah because that's the only way out for you.
kamar yadda kuke gani dai wannan shine direban jirgin ku wanda kuka turo shi ya zo ya cutar da bayan Allah ga abin da Allah ya da shi daga sama ya faɗo wannan in ba ku tuba ba gaba ɗaya zai zama makoman ku wannan shine insha Allah
ونقسم بالذي برأ البرايا سيندم من أعان.
Now, it's important to show that video, not because I want to glorify what they're doing, but to show you the kind of propaganda and challenge that we have in Nigeria. What these guys have done is superimposed, an incident that happened recently of a plane that was that exploded in midair, and then they add it to the picture of the Nigeria Air Force plane that actually had the technical fault. We're still waiting for the full report of what happened there, but more or less what they did was put those videos together, and in less than 5-6 hours, they pushed it out into the public domain, more than 200,000 views, and of course, Nigerian Air Force, slow, sluggish, coming out to say, oh no, it wasn't like that. But bottom line is that they should have done that much earlier. But this is what we are going through, and we're having a challenge where these individuals, these terrorists, this hybrid, are going about causing havoc and creating an embarrassment, taking people's children. I have videos that I could have shown you of the parents saying that they are going to negotiate with these individuals, because at the end of the day, if people are holding your children captive, they release some kids, your children are still with them, maybe 24, 20 plus are still with them. You don't know what they could do to them. They could rape them, they could kill them. You just want them at home. And when government is not that responsive to their plight, then you find out that people will go to any means. And if I'm in those parents' shoes, I will also do this thing. So we must not blame those parents for what they are trying to do to get their loved ones out. Now, if you're watching me right now, I want you to like this page, I want you to share this page, and I want you to tell me where you're watching from. I tell you, Mr. Manuel is watching me also. Thank you so much, my brother. Mr. Mark is working also. Mr. Mike, thank you so much, Mark. Thank you. It is a war zone. We have serious challenges in Nigeria. But today, we're going to talk about 10 strategic ways, to eradicate banditry and kidnapping in northern Nigeria, because that is where the bulk of the challenge is. And if we're able to deal with that, then we're able to solve the problem. So let me go straight to my PowerPoint slide that I'm going to that I believe would really help to address this issue. Yes, it's there right now. Let me just put it on a sec. Sharing just one. Okay, now I believe you can see the full page. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about 10 strategic ways to eradicate banditry and kidnapping. Now, I believe we need to go back to Security 101. Security 101 in the sense that we need to define these issues, because if we don't define it, then we're not able to really understand what we're talking about. So when we're talking about banditry, who are these bandits? Because that is very, very important. In order to be able to eradicate bandit or banditry, you must be able to understand what kind of bandits you're dealing with. If you don't know who you're dealing with, you can't actually deal with them. Are they normal bandits? Are they hybrid bandits? Or are they pure terrorists? Because terrorists can also adopt people. They go out and ransack communities to take food, and they might take people to get money in order to be able to fund their activities and agenda. So it's actually quite important to define what kind of bandits we're dealing with. The bandits in Nigeria, are they normal bandits? Are they hybrid bandits? Are they pure terrorists? Now, I'm going to answer that question at the end of this presentation, but please just bear with me. If you're watching right now, like this page, share this page, tell your friends, if you're watching via YouTube, press the subscribe button, because it's important to show that you like it. And if you don't really like what I'm saying and you think I'm talking gibberish, dislike it also. Everybody is welcome. So, my belief is that when you want to define bandit, pure bandit in English language, it's a robber or outlaw, as they call it, belonging to a gang and typically operating in an isolated or lawless area. So when we're looking at it from an academic perspective, certain things jump out to us. So a bandit will belong to a group or a gang, and that gang normally will operate in isolated areas. Yes. So when you look at the bandits in Nigeria, they actually fulfill that definition. So when anybody calls them a bandit, they are right to call them a bandit. The question then is, are they normal bandits? Are they hybrid bandits? Or are they terrorists? Because we could see the picture of Sheikh Gumi presenting these bandits with Quranic booklets or Islamic book, as you could call it, and speaking to them. So why is a religious leader speaking, a religious icon or religious practitioner speaking to bandits? Is he trying to speak to them because he believes that the act of banditry that they are involved in is un-Islamic, and is saying to them, move away from your ungodly ways, move back to the way of Islam? Or is he speaking to them because he believes that their cause is not banditry, but actually nationalistic or terrorist or hybrid? That is a question that we need to answer. So, but before we answer that question, let's also ask ourselves, who is a kidnapper? Because again, this is very important in dealing with this issue, this complex issue that we're dealing with in Nigeria. I'll give you a classic example of a case that happened a few days ago that was paraded in the news, where a former employee of a bank is the one that organized for his former colleagues to be kidnapped, because he knows their house. He listens to their conversation when they're in the car. He knows when they get their money, and they must have gisted him about one or two things. And then he gathered his own gang, and they are now kidnapping those individuals in Delta State and collecting money from them, and even building their own house. He said he was not involved in the operational aspect. He was the brain mind to it, and all he was interested was monetary, and they just collect the money, they give him a share for giving them the material. So this is quite important, because you need to know who you talk around, the people that you employ to be your driver, to be your household worker, or people that work with you. There need to be a proper risk assessment that is done, because you can't just be recruiting anybody to work with you because you don't know what kind of risks they bring. So a kidnapper is someone who takes a person away legally by force, usually in order to demand money in exchange for releasing them. Yeah, and we've seen that Boko Haram have done that. They've taken away people and asked for money, or asked in exchange for their own colleagues that are within the that are being held by security agents, and they say, let's do a trade by barter. You give us our people, we give you back these people. And we noticed that that was actually done with some of the Chibok girls that were brought back. However, kidnappers are different from abductors. Abductors are people that know the individuals, so they will know that they use persuasion. And sometimes when family members are involved in the taking away of an individual known to them, the word adoption is used, even though this word kidnapping, adoption is interchange. But when you adopt minors, also it could, when you take minors, it could be called an adoption. And you should also know that there is an aggravated adoption, aggravated kidnapping, because when you use weapons in the course of removing someone forcefully, then it adds an additional criminal act into it. That is law 101. There's no need for us to go into that. So now, banditry and kidnapping in Nigeria. I'm writing a book right now, which I'll be telling you about in my few episodes, and I'll be telling you when the book will be coming out. It's called The Kings of the Road. It's talking about kidnapping, and my record and my research reveals that there have been over 1,900 kidnapping cases in Nigeria since 2015 to date. Now, you could do your mathematics to determine how many kidnapping is happening. Those are the ones that are recorded, not the ones that are not recorded. And banditry is a serious situation in Nigeria, where in northwest Nigeria, they go into the community, they kill the people, rape the women, and just go away with their cattle and go away with their belongings. And kidnapping is also happening rapidly. We know that the children of the forestry, the students of the forestry school in Kaduna, have not been released. Only 5 of them have been released. And the question then is, and many people have had in some quarters, is that some of those ones that have been released, even though that information is not yet authenticated, they've been said to be people that are of a particular religion, but we don't know yet. So please don't hold me to that. That the 5 that have been released belong to a particular, and that again will be a game changer, because we noticed that the children that were taken were both Christians and Muslims, and if they are releasing only the Muslim one, then that goes back to the issue with Lee Shaibu, where in Yobe, they released all the other girls from the school, but she is still in captivity, and she's already given back there because she refused to denounce her religion. So that will change the whole game, because the governor of Kaduna State is saying anybody that negotiates with the bandits will face the wrath of the law. And the parents are saying we are willing to go to prison, we are willing to even die in order to get our family back. This is a crossroad, because, and I'll be talking about one of the ways that we could deal with the issue of kidnapping, because if the issue of the kidnapping or adoption have been handled appropriately, or the kidnapping have been handled appropriately, the parents will not need to be going into some of the things they are saying about, going to negotiate. But when people feel like they are left behind, now that does not mean that Governor El-Rufai is not doing everything within his power as the governor to try and get those kids back. But remember that he's only a chief security officer of his own state, and most of these commissioner of police, head of army, head of civil defense in those areas, although they answer to the governor, yet they still answer to their boss in Abuja, and that is one of the reasons why people are calling for state, state policing and all those decentralization of the security forces. But that is a question for another day. But you could see here the kidnapping of the Chibok girls who are on my left-hand side. You could see those girls that are still 100 that is still missing. But out of those 100, we know that some of them have actually, remarried. They are not willing to come back. Some of them have died. And we know that even with the case, the Kaduna kidnapping, we know that one of the parents have actually died as a result of this incident. Could link the death to parents slumped, over the issue of their child. So these are the psychological impact of this thing, and nobody is really talking about that. That's an area that we need to spend about 2 or 3 hours to look at the impact, the psychological impact of kidnapping on family, loved ones, and even people that are watching on TV who are saying this, that children are being taken from schools, and you could see those children, look at how dirty they look. I don't know how some of them could not even walk when they were brought back, from the kidnapping. So that is the situation. Now, the question is, how do we stop this embarrassment? How do we stop this embarrassment? There are 10 ways we can stop this embarrassment. If you're watching me right now, you can like this page, you can share this page, you could tell your friends, and loved ones that I'm live, on YouTube, I'm live on LinkedIn, I'm on live on Twitter, and you could more or less send me your questions, and I'll be more than happy to take questions after going through this PowerPoint slide. But we need to stop parents crying, like we could see, in this video, this PowerPoint presentation. We need to stop. We need to stop it. We need to be able to stop it. And I believe that one of the ways we could stop it is to actually do a risk assessment and do an audit of states across the state. We need to have a kidnapping, anti-kidnapping strategy in Nigeria, which will be a template that every state will derive their own strategic and implementation plan from. Because if you don't have a strategy, what will happen is that you negotiate with bandits here, and bandits will go to another place. It's just like things popping up and down, up and down, up and down. We need to be able to stop. We need to be able to stop this adoption. We need to be able to stop this kidnapping that is going on. And one of the ways to do it is to have a comprehensive kidnapping, anti-kidnapping strategy. As we speak, Nigeria does not have an anti-kidnapping strategy, and they do not have a implementation plan. There are some states that have actually gone ahead to have legislative provisions in place to deal with this. They are dealing with it as we speak, especially in the southwest, the southeast of Nigeria. They actually had a serious problem with it a few years ago, and they came up with legislative provisions. But what we're saying when we talk about strategy is that the strategy is not just about the stick approach alone, but also include the carrot approach. So when you have a strategy, your strategy will have embedded in it an audit. So you carry out an audit, a kidnapping audit in your state to look at how do we deal with the issue of kidnapping, and is the issue of kidnapping a problem? There are some states that will tell you we don't have kidnapping problem. If you don't have kidnapping problem, there's no need for you to waste money on it because your existing laws will deal with it. But where it has become pandemic, where kidnapping has become pandemic and becoming a state embarrassment or national embarrassment, then you need to have a strategy in place with an implementation plan. So if you have a strategy in place with an implementation plan, then you could actually deal with the issue of banditry, and you can also deal with the issue of kidnapping. So you could envelope all those issues in it and deal with it. So if you're watching me right now, please like this page, share this page, and tell your friends that I, Temitope Olodo, am live talking about it. So that's the first item. Second one is that I've talked about the first one. You need to do an audit in the first place. Once you do, you have your audit to determine whether there is a need for you to have a banditry or anti-banditry, anti-kidnapping strategy. Then you need to have an implementation plan attached to that strategy. But more importantly, you must have a strategy in place to eradicate kidnapping. So eradicate kidnapping by education. Now, I'm not talking about just sending people to school. So even all the graduates are coming out of school, there is no work for them. So it's not just about sending people to school, but it's about educating the community about their own safety, educating the people about discouraging their kids getting involved in the life of crime. That is quite important, because if you do not deal with that, that will more or less be a problem. Now, before I continue, let me go back to the question that I asked earlier, which is, what do we have in Nigeria? Is it normal banditry? Is it hybrid banditry? Or is it terrorist? I believe there is certain bandits who have taken on board the philosophy and ideology of Boko Haram, or they have members of Boko Haram already embedded, already embedded in their fold. And what they are doing now is that carrying out activities on behalf of Boko Haram as they come down, further down to southern Nigeria and in other parts of Nigeria. So what we have is an hybrid. It is important to highlight, very importantly, that the word bandit, there is an organized crime. And these are individuals that are outlaws committing crimes by using threat and the use of the threatening, using threat and the use of violence. But it's also important to explain that the term bandit actually, was introduced into English language in 1590 from Italy, from the Italians, but it's a word that was derived from German law. It came out of German practice to outlaw, criminals. So it has its roots based in English language, in Italian, and also in Germanic German's legislative processes. So I believe that what we are dealing with in Nigeria are hybrid bandits, not just normal bandits, and that is the reason why that picture of Segumi that I showed to you was quite important. Now, there is questions as of Sunday, which was about a few days ago. The former president of Nigeria, President Olusegun Obasanjo, and Gumi, the Sheikh Gumi, had a 5-hour meeting, and during that 5-hour meeting, which was put in a 9-paragraph, they talked about the kind of things that could be done to deal with the issue of banditry and challenges in the north, really, and in the country in general. And they came up with 20 recommendations. Some of those recommendations, I agree with it. I believe that it's important that this discussion is not a discussion that is restricted to Nigeria alone, but a discussion that involves ECOWAS, because we notice that some of the bandits or some of these individuals involved in this crime are actually foreigners who have come into Nigeria. So there is need to discuss the protocol, because of the free travel protocol within ECOWAS. And if these criminals are moving around anyhow, then we should have a way of dealing with it. In the UK, for example, when UK was still part of Europe, anybody that is involved in criminality from Europe can be removed. There was a provision in there. The question we need to ask ourselves is, does that kind of provision exist within ECOWAS? And those are the kind of discussions, academic discussions and practical discussions that we must be having. That if criminals are taking advantage of the free movement of people, which is a good initiative, then we must find a way to close that loophole. And I will not be surprised that loophole has already been closed, and actually provisions are already in place to ensure that criminals cannot move from one country to another. But our national government dealing with it, because if you remember, part of the problem with Brexit in the United Kingdom was that a lot of people believe that the UK was flooded. That's the word they used, not my word. Flooded, and as a result, they wanted to get out because they believed there were too many Europeans, too many foreigners, and there were no jobs, there were no things. But actually, UK could have implemented a lot of policies that were embedded within the system to ensure that if people come into the country and they do not have jobs within the first 6 months, they are meant to go back and those kind of things. But the UK did not implement it because, of course, UK was enjoying it. That's for businesses, they were really benefiting from it. So I've talked about the first way to deal with it, 10 ways that we could deal with, 10 ways that we could actually deal with or eradicate kidnapping. And I've mentioned that the first way is that we need to do an audit to determine whether there is need for actually a strategy. If there is need for a strategy, then especially in northern Nigeria, where they have this serious problem with banditry and kidnapping, one of the things they should do is to have a strategy in place, because it's not just only girls that are having problems, but it's also boys. But everybody is turning to the president, and I believe it's not about the president now, it's about the local government, it's about the state taking responsibility. And it's not just about one group saying we're going to negotiate with the criminals while the other groups are not negotiating with the criminals. Everybody must be engaging, or must be working from a similar template. So those templates can be adjusted, to suit local needs, suit religious needs, suit cultural sensitivities, and those kind of things. So I believe that is quite important. I also believe that we must have a strategy in place to ensure that the kidnappers, bandits are not recruiting vulnerable individuals into their fold, because we know from information that have come out from people that have been to these bandits enclave, that there are a lot of minors in there, and that makes it a bit complicated when we start talking about negotiating with these individuals. Because the governor of Kaduna State, Governor El-Rufai, has said he is not negotiating with anybody, and he's within his right to say that. But the question then is, what do you do with the 7-year-old? What do you do with the 10-year-old? What do you do with the 14-year-old that was adopted and brought into this fold against their will and used for this? There must be an avenue to be able to get those people back. One of the ways to be able to stop banditry and stop kidnapping is to have an amnesty. Now, I'm not talking about blanket amnesty, but I'm talking about an arms amnesty. So you could create designated areas. You say people should bring their arms, drop their arms in exchange for cash, or drop their arms in exchange for leniency from the government. And government will take their record, take their details, and as a result of taking those details, they are able to negotiate, engage with them, and ensure that those individuals can also be used in de-radicalizing individuals who have actually gone into banditry, hybrid banditry, and kidnapping, and to talk to them, because nobody is above rehabilitation. But there are certain individuals who might have gone past rehabilitation for one reason or the other. But that is another question for another day. The other very important thing, which I know a lot of political leaders are shying away from, is if you have individuals who have been at home, who are over the age of 18, and they are home for more than 1 year and not working, I don't see why government cannot engage them. You could insist that everyone, just like you are insisting that everybody must have a NIMS, which is an identification number, which is now linked to the phone. And if you do not have that on your phone, I know it's been extended as a result of a legal challenge in the court. We are waiting to know how long it will be extended for. Will it be 2 months as requested for, or will it be 6 months? If you have those kind of initiative to ensure that you are able to trace phones so that people cannot use burnt phones which cannot be traced, then I do not see the reason why you cannot take a further additional step to say, actually, anybody over the age of 18 who is not working, government will find a way to support them one way or the other. And one of the things they need to do is to register them, get their biometrics, know who they are. I believe that will go a long way to do with the issue of forensic crime management, because all these areas where these kids are being kidnapped or adopted, you go there, police are not taking fingerprints, police are not doing any forensic work there because they don't even have the data to match it with. And that is the biggest problem. And any one of these people can collect money, just like the ones in Delta, who are collecting money and building big houses in their locality, and nobody know who they are. They could just say we're businessmen and they are doing their work. Meanwhile, if their fingerprint have been taken earlier, that would not have happened at all. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is that there is need for us to look at the issue of banditry as it is happening right now, in Nigeria, and start asking ourselves very, very important questions. I've asked that question. If you're watching me right now, you can like this page, you can share this page, and thank you so much, for leaving your message. I really, really appreciate it. And what am I saying? What I'm saying is very simple. If we have a system in place that allows us to be able to know who is who, a crime scene management, then we'll be able to eradicate criminality in Nigeria. Part of the problem with the banditry and kidnapping that is happening is that we have very little armed robbery going on now. All the armed robbers have shifted to banditry, and they've shifted to kidnapping, because when you say it's kidnapping, nobody is tracing any money, nobody is checking out the money that they've collected. But if it's armed robbery, they can be caught, the police can chase them and follow them. When it's kidnapping, they just want to just collect the people back and then let them let it be. So one of the challenges that we need to deal with is crime scene management. And there's no way we can deal with crime scene management if we don't have the big data. And there's no way we can have the big data if we don't have a deliberate policy to ensure that individuals who are involved in this kind of crime are captured, their fingerprints are captured. If we don't have that, we're not able to deal with this issue. So that, like I mentioned earlier, number one, we need to do an audit to know whether there is need for us to have a kidnapping, to do a kidnapping audit. And once we've done that, and it says, yes, there is a challenge with kidnapping in the state, then you need to have a strategy. And when you have that strategy must have an implementation plan. That's number three. But there are legislative provisions that you must put in place. That's number four. Do we need a court? Yes, there have been called for a special court. The reason why there is need for a special court is because the rule of justice in Nigeria is very, very slow. It's very, very, the will of justice is very, very slow. And people can be in holding for more than 1 year on their case being postponed and postponed. But when you have a special tribunal dealing with it, it quickens it. Do I really want to, do I want a situation like that? Not really. Let me give you a class example. Sadly, yesterday, an individual, drive recklessly in a manner that led to the death of a toddler in the uh, pram that the mom was pushing. Not only was that person arrested at the scene, that person was taken to the court, and that person have actually, been remanded for 1 month, and the case is coming up in 1 month. That will never happen in Nigeria. The case will take forever to go through, and for that reason, even innocent people are suffering. That's the reason why I actually support, the need for a special court to deal with it. I also support the fact that there is need for a regional approach to dealing with the issue of banditry, because some of these banditry are coming from abroad. And if we do not have an ID card, which is another initiative that I'm saying, if we do not have an ID card in place to ensure that people can be stopped and their ID card checked, then we're going to have a serious problem. The other thing is that Nigeria need to have a strategy in place to ensure that there are no ungoverned spaces in Nigeria. Just like you had when I was talking about the definition of, banditry, we found out that these are individuals that operate in ungoverned space. So we need to ensure that we reduce the number of ungoverned space. How do we reduce the number of ungoverned space? All these spaces can be given out to big corporations for farming, which will employ a lot of this youth. Government can also get involved. In fact, I don't see the reason why the prison service cannot actually have big farms and work in private, have a public-private partnership, where they work with private companies to have big farms and recruit all these kids, teach them, so that by the time they are leaving the prison, they can actually start working for themselves and become farmers, and there will be no need for them to go into criminality. I'm giving you 5. And because of our time, I'm going to actually stop at that. And you could send me your questions if you think there is need for me to talk about the remaining 10, because if any government wants those 10 recommendations, they should get in touch with me. They should pay for it if they want a recommendation. Thank you so much. I could see people that are watching. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much, for watching and leaving your comments. Yes, it is a terrible situation that we're in, where bandits are able to create all kind of havoc. And they're not just stopping at that, but they are also involved in terrorism. And it's not just terrorism alone. There's a lot of challenges that we have in Nigeria as we speak. And how then are we able to deal with that if we have a situation where government is very slow in addressing these challenges? We have a situation where government is very, very slow in addressing the challenge of adoption. We have a situation where government is slow in taking strategic steps in tackling this issue. And because of that, what you found out is that people will go into that. Even people are kidnapping their landlords. They are kidnapping their landlord in order to be able to use that money to pay for their crime. So that should not be allowed to happen. But let me show you this Boko Haram video again and then speak to it again before we close this.
sammu fakar musosu mugumu dan wuta kansu shirya muje ga kansu domin magirgiza su sammu fakar musosu
Allahu Akbar Allahu ala wajal Allahu Akbar
sammu fakar musosu mugumu dan wuta kansu سنبقى رغم كيد الظالمين إلى يوم القيامة ظاهرين ونقسم بالذي برأ البرايا سيندم من أعان الكافرين سنبقى رغم كيد الظالمين إلى يوم القيامة ظاهرين ونقسم بالذي برأ البرايا سيندم من أعان الكافرين سنقتل كل من نالت يداه من الإسلام دين المسلمين ونضرب بالسيوف رقاب قوم طغوا وبغوا علينا ما نسينا سنقتل كل من نالت يداه من الإسلام دين المسلمين ونضرب بالسيوف رقاب قوم طغوا وبغوا علينا ما نسينا طغوا وبغوا علينا ما نسينا سنبقى رغم كيد الظالمين إلى يوم القيامة ظاهرين ونقسم بالذي برأ البرايا سيندم من أعان الكافرين سنبقى رغم كيد الظالمين
Nigeria Airport, jet fighters, plate number 475 or sent to Sambisa to fight the Mujahideen. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it clear that no one can fight with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this is the evidence of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done today. Jet fighter of the Nigeria Airport 475. Now our message to you, Kufar. There's no how you fight the people of Allah. Now we are calling you to repent. The only way for you now is to repent and come and worship Allah because that's the only way out for you.
Kamar yadda kuke gani dai wannan shine direban jirgin ku wanda kuka turo shi ya zo ya cutar da bayan Allah. Ga abin da Allah ya da shi daga sama ya faɗo. Wannan in ba ku tuba ba gaba ɗaya zai zama makomanku wannan shine insha Allah.
ونقسم بالذي برأ البرايا سيندم من أعان الكافرين.
So just like you see from that video, and thank you, Mr. Mustafa, really appreciate that. Just like you could see from that video, we have a situation where Boko Haram is causing a lot of havoc, going around they adopt people, they slaughter people in their farms, and that is exactly what this, hybrid bandits are doing, kidnapping children from their school, creating all kind of, all kind of situation challenges, really. But there are ways in which you could address these challenges. There are 10 strategic ways you can eradicate them. And from my PowerPoint slide, I've mentioned what they are, who they are, but I've also mentioned that there is need for us to carry out an audit. Is banditry a problem in our area? If it's a problem, then we need to deal with it. If you're watching me right now, you can like this page, you can share this page. You could tell your friends and neighbors that I, Temitope Olodo, I'm live on YouTube, live on Facebook, live, on Twitter. Share it, like it, watch this page. But as I was mentioning, there are many ways that you could deal with it. If you have a proper audit in place, that is a good way to deal with it. You can, audit the situation, look at it. If it's just for you to just put in a place guidance for people because you don't have serious problem with banditry and kidnapping, and that is good. But if you realize that you have serious problem with it, then you move to number 2. You have a strategy in place. But just don't do what every Nigerian government is doing, which is they have a big, beautiful strategy, they launch it, but they don't have an implementation plan. You must have an implementation plan. You must have materials, education. It's not just about telling people, sending people to school without giving them, tools after they leave school, because they then become a devil's hand workshop. What you want is a situation where you're educating parents, educating individuals about how to move away from life of crime. But not only should you do that, we must be able to stop the recruitment strategy of these kidnappers, because they have a lot of people in their midst that they have adopted as a minor and use them for this atrocity. We can't brush all the kidnappers with one brush. We must find a way to be able to separate it. That's the conflict of the challenges that we have in this situation. I also talked about the fact that there must be a regional effort to deal with it, because some of these guys are coming from outside Nigeria, and the ECOWAS protocol must have protocols in place where criminals are dealt with and restricted from being able to enter to one country. I also talked about the need for an ID card. There must be an ID card. If you have names already to deal with issue of phone registration, I don't see why you can't have ID card for anyone that is over the age of 18 that is not working. Anyone over the age of 18 that have not worked for 1 year, give them 3 to 4 months and tell them all to register, and then give them carrots. You could say, for example, they can enter government-owned transport in order for them to go and look for work between the hours of 11 and 5 p.m. Government transport, anybody can enter. Anybody with those ID card can enter for free, so that they can move from one place to the other to be able to get jobs. Those are the kind of initiatives that when you put in place, people will be very happy. It's not that you just, say, oh, okay. You have to find ways to be able to bring people on board. And I think if those kind of strategies are deployed, we'll find out that a lot of people would really be quite pleased and move away from life of crime. I also think that government must engage with private institution and create big farms, create innovative products. Let's just not stop at just giving traditional kind of training. Let's bring in innovative training, data, teach people to do coding and decoding, those kind of things. It is very important that we do that. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Now, we need to put these things in place. Otherwise, we're going to have serious problem, because we have a situation where a lot of people are going into this because they don't have money. There are different reasons why people are going into it. People are going into it for greed. People are going into it for religious reasons. People are going into it for political reasons. And that is the reason why we saw Chief Gumi meeting with the former president Olusegun Obasanjo and coming out with 20 recommendations, which I will encourage the government to take on board. Of course, there is controversy with regard to Sheikh Gumi, but we are told that during the 5 hours meeting that I had with President Olusegun Obasanjo, they actually did question him about some of the things and utterances that he made, and he actually did try and explain himself out of that situation. However, like I mentioned before, we could have special courts also, but the reason for special court is because the legal system is not working properly. If the legal system is working properly, there will be no need for a special court. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is that there's a lot of things that we could do to improve and eradicate kidnapping and banditry in Nigeria. If we put those things in place, believe you me, we'll all be very, very happy, and everybody can go to bed with their 2 eyes closed. However, if we do not put those initiatives in place, put a recruitment strategy, reduce the recruitment strategy of kidnappers, ensure that there are systems in place to educate people about kidnapping and how to keep their house safe, ensure that there are no ungoverned space, that people can use for banditry and keeping people there. Make sure that there are legislative provisions in place. I've mentioned about 8 different initiatives that government can use to eradicate, because sometimes when you put a proper legislative provisions in place, you find out that people will move away from the life of crime if they know, for example, that they will there will be a long-term prison sentence if they get involved in this kind of criminality. Then you find out that people would definitely move away from it. So those are ways in which we can deal with this. And if you have any questions at all, you could get in touch with me, get in touch with me through my organization. My email address is running through. You can send me an email at info@transcustodium.uk or visit our website www.trans.org. If you have a particular topic that you think that you will want us or want me to deal with, then send me the topic, drop a message, and I'll tell you I will be happy to do a presentation on it, because I feel that talking about this kind of things will help so that people will understand when somebody says this person is a bandit, or this person is an hybrid bandit, or this person is a terrorist. You understand? There's no doubt in my mind that these are hybrid bandit, because it's a mixture of terrorists, because as you could see from Chief Sheikh Gumi going to them and talking to them and talking about the fact that these people have grievances about their challenges, but that must not be an excuse. If you have grievances that are instruments of the states that you can use, and the three layers of government, the legislators, the executive and judiciary, you can go to your legislator and put your complaint forward, and they will definitely fight for you. But we cannot all be resorting to criminality to resolve the challenges that we have in Nigeria. That is very, very important. Like I said, my name is Temitope Olodo. You can see my name running across. You could meet up, come back again and you can see us again. We are always here every Tuesday, every Thursday, every Saturday. Thursday is going to be another topic, and that topic will be coming out tomorrow. If you have any questions at all, do not hesitate to send me a message. Do so using my information at the bottom. Thank you so much again for tuning in, for all those people that actually tune in to watch. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I wish you a pleasant evening. God bless you all.